Florida State basketball on a serious run, being able to capitalize on not one, but two of their weekend visitors over the weekend for the Alabama game. Brandon Bass Jr., four-star combo guard out of Windermere Prep in Orlando, the son of NBA. He's not a Hall of Famer, is he? But
I don't think so, is he?
But regardless, a very, very good NBA player in Brandon Bass. They hold the same name. You'll recognize that immediately. But, Matt, Luke Laux going on an absolute heater on the recruiting trail with Brandon Bass committing this afternoon. Now Florida State should have the number one recruiting class in the country for basketball. They're third right now, but you and I were having a conversation earlier that Jason Lopez is not listed by On3 and Rivals on the basketball page. I would imagine that they are number one with J-Rock joining that list, but regardless of the rankings, because at the end of the day,
they are number one on other networks. So they're
and they're number one in our hearts.
A consensus top three class. Let's say that.
Let's say that. A really, really good class for Luke Laux and an incredible amount of excitement and momentum for Florida State basketball. How big is this commitment, Matt? Because you were talking last week about feeling really good about Colin Paul. You hit on that one. You also felt like Brandon Bass was a guy that you felt pretty good about Florida State being able to land. They got both of them this weekend. How significant is this for Florida State basketball?
Yeah, man, Luke is absolutely on fire right now, and it is insane, man. It's huge. Like, when was the last time you saw Florida State recruiting like this at basketball, or having being this excited about a basketball season with all this hype coming into doing well on the trail? It's huge. I mean, Brandon Bass chose Florida State over Purdue and LSU, where his dad went, but Purdue, a basketball power the last few years. That's insane to go head-to-head against a team that, did they win the national championship a few years ago? Or they were at the very least the Final Four with Zach Edey. But that's insane that a Florida State team who hasn't made the tournament in a couple years is able to go head-to-head with Purdue on the recruiting trail for a top 75 guy like Brandon Bass. And he's a really good player. This is a really big get for Florida State. And you have 3 top 75 players in your class now. That's insane. If I would have told you that a year ago, would you have believed me? Probably not. And Colin Paul adds on to it. I feel like I nailed it after saying I felt like they had a good shot at both of them last weekend. But I'm not trying to toot my own horn here. Just wanted to point that out. But it's man, it's really fun to watch and really fun to cover. This was another priority recruitment for Luke Laux and staff. Going back to when they first got on campus, one of the first times they went on the recruiting trail and on the road, they went to Windermere, or they went to Orlando and saw Brandon, had dinner for nearly 3 hours with his family in their first face-to-face meeting. And that kind of set the tone for the rest of the recruitment. Brandon's coach also played at Florida State with Luke Laux. So, and obviously the NBA connections. I don't know if Luke specifically knew Brandon Bass Sr. that well, but obviously he's going to know someone who knows him pretty well. So and obviously you're going to, if you're Brandon, even though it's not his alma mater of LSU, you're going to trust sending your kid to someone like that, right? Someone who you have friends who know very well and trust. So this is a huge get for Florida State. Huge.
And some NBA connections as well, obviously.
Yeah.
There's that trust, as you mentioned, that is going to be established in terms of sending your kid to somebody that you know is going to coach him well, has that experience in the league, understand what it's going to take. And obviously, being the son of a former NBA player, you're going to have a little bit of that built into you naturally. But I think it definitely says something that Florida State was able to capitalize off of that momentum. Obviously, have very good meetings, as you said. I mean, a 3-hour dinner. It's a pretty dang long time. That's probably also a pretty hefty bill. Luke is going to be fronting at the table.
Hey, that's all Florida State. That's all Florida State. That's Alfred getting the bill.
But nevertheless, to be able to beat out an alma mater in LSU as well, a legacy prospect. We've been seeing it throughout the past few days, Matt. Luke Laux and his guys, his staff, are going on a recruiting heater, not only in terms of who they've been able to get on the trail, but also in terms of who they've been able to visit down south. They checked in on J-Rock Lopez yesterday or the day before that, relatively recently. What do you think the potential is for there to be some serious momentum here for Florida State basketball? Because they've got other guys that were there on Saturday things left to be played out, certainly with some other recruitments, but you also have a kid like Tony Bryant that was supposed to visit during the Alabama weekend, didn't. That official visit is going to be rescheduled for sometime in the future, you imagine. Is there potential for Florida State basketball to catch even more fire than they've already caught so far through this first weekend?
I think so. And I do need to do some checking on that because it's basketball. You don't have these huge recruiting classes like football, right? Like there's only
Right.
15 roster spots. So we're going to have to see. But yeah, as of now, I don't think they're done yet because, I mean, look at the visits they're still taking to see kids. So they saw Brandon Bass on Thursday right before he committed at Windermere Prep. And then they also saw Colin Paul the day before, and they were down south. They saw Gaskins, who's a 5-star, again the same day they saw Lopez. They're still traveling and seeing a lot of guys. They're seeing Kevin Thomas again at Montverde on Thursday as well. He was on campus over the weekend, and you still have a bunch of visits too. Joe Filon, another Montverde guy who's going to be on campus here in a few weeks. You have multiple other visits that are still to come. Like I think it's five still blue chip visits coming for Florida State basketball. So yeah, if they were done, those visits would be canceled. As far as I know, those visits are not canceled. So we're still going, and Luke Laux is red hot, man. I haven't had the chance to tweet yet the SpongeBob blowing fire emoji or gifs, but that's coming in a second. Just know that 5 minutes after the show, when I tweeted that, it was like I already been thinking about it, just haven't had the opportunity to.
If you could pinpoint it, and it could be a number of different things, but when you think about Luke and Michael Fry as well, what do you think it is that makes Florida State such an attractive option right now? Because we can sit here and say, oh, there's a lot of excitement, there's a lot of buzz about Florida State basketball, but it's a type of tangible excitement that isn't always there when it comes to coaching changes. A lot of guys, you need to see performance on the court, need to see how that roster is developed over the course of an offseason or even a year in some cases. Florida State is hot right now. It has not taken long for Luke and his staff to be able to come in and build that excitement around Florida State basketball. What do you think it is, if you can pinpoint one thing that's making Luke be able to connect with recruits like this so early?
So I think it's two things. I think it's the NBA thing saying like, hey, I know this. I coached Steph Curry. I coached Kevin Durant. I'm best friends with De'Aaron Fox. I was at his wedding. There's all these things of modern players that kids connect to right away and go like, oh, I watch him all the time. That's my favorite player. And I think he's like, I can make you that. Not many people in college basketball right now have that. Like Coach Cal has that from a bringing them up perspective, but not I saw him in the NBA and I know how it works when you get there perspective, right? That's a whole new thing that a lot of these kids don't hear. And then it's the hires he made on his staff. Michael Fly, Gillian. These are guys who are locked in on the Florida basketball recruiting scene. They know these people. They have good relationships with all these people. And that's Colin Paul, Michael Fly offered years ago at Jacksonville. And that carried over to the already good relationship. Marcus Ponder plays for Gillian's brother. Brandon Bass, the NBA connection, and his coach played at Florida State with Luke Laux. There are so many relationships here that he was able to get by hiring these guys, and it is really paying off so far. And don't think it's done yet.
A lot of great commitments over the last few weeks for Florida State basketball. Maybe Florida State football starts to capitalize on that as well.